Hi everybody, thanks for joining. We'll just give it another few seconds, maybe another 30 seconds or so, just to make sure everybody's got a chance to join before we start. Still got some people joining, so we'll just give it another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everybody who's here has left previous meetings or wherever they may have been, lunch breaks. Okay, cool. The numbers are kind of settling now, so if anybody else joins, they'll just get in automatically. So I think we'll just get started. So thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. My name is Stephen Thompson. I'm the Events and Community Manager at the Data Lab. Today's webinar is part of an ongoing series of webinars that we run throughout the community, kind of month to month throughout the year, where we invite members and kind of extended members of the community to come on and speak about interesting projects that they've been working on. Today's session is also part of our Geospatial Month, which we've been running throughout June. We've had quite a few sessions already throughout the month on kind of various aspects of geospatial data. If you missed any of those, you can check them out on the Data Lab's YouTube channel. There should be recordings up there of most of the sessions that we've had so far. And we're also recording today's webinar. So, you know, if you want to revisit anything that we cover today, then it should be available on the Data Lab YouTube channel within the next day or two. If you've got any questions throughout the session, just make sure to post them in the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom portal. We should have plenty of time at the end to run through any questions, so we'll try and get through as many of those as we can. And most of you will probably be familiar with the Data Lab community already, but just in case you haven't joined yet, the Data Lab community is kind of the community responsible for this event today. So make sure to join either by signing the QR code that you should be able to see on the bottom of your Zoom, or if not, just head to community.thedatalab.com. We run regular events in person and online throughout the year, and there's loads of opportunities for you to kind of connect with other data and AI professional students and academics. Ask questions if you've got any challenges and kind of get support and just generally be amongst people who have got similar interests to you. So just to move on to an introduction to Peter, as mentioned this month in the community, we've been focusing on geospatial data. So we're delighted to have Peter McCaig here this afternoon, who's going to be discussing two topics that we're very interested in at the Data Lab. And I know a lot of the members in the community are really keen to hear more about, and those are geospatial data, maps and accessibility. So just while we get started, maybe just to get a little bit of a sense of who's in the room today or who's on the call today, if you maybe just let us know in the chat. First of all, are you a member or not of the Data Lab community? And secondly, what is your experience with geospatial data? Is it something that you work with regularly, or is it something that you're interested in? Maybe you're looking to kind of transition towards more of a geospatial data focused role, or you're just here because you kind of thought the session was interesting. Let us know in the chat. So Peter is the Senior Heritage Information Officer at Historic Environment Scotland. For those who might not be familiar with Historic Environment Scotland, they're responsible for investigating, caring for and promoting Scotland's historic environment. So today, Peter is going to be speaking about the CHRoMA project, which stands for Cultural Heritage Review on Map Accessibility. And we're looking forward to seeing what Peter's got to say. So that's everything from me. I'll just hand over to you now, Peter.
Okay. So,
thanks very much, and I'll see you at the end for the Q&A.
right. Thank you very much, Stephen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, that's coming through now.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm Peter McCaig. As Stephen says, I work for Historic Environment Scotland. I work in the Heritage Information team within the Heritage Directorate. We're a very large organisation. And before my present role, we were part of an organisation called the Royal Commission on the Ancient Historical Monuments of Scotland, or ARCAMS, and that had probably over 100 years worth of survey experience. And the title slide shows one of my former colleagues on St Kilda mapping the archaeology with a digital GPS kit. So it's hyper accurate, sub-meter accuracy plan of the archaeology of the island. We've done that. We've undertaken that kind of survey for 30 odd years. We've also got an equivalent team who's been mapping the archaeology from crop marks that are revealed when the crops dry differentially in the summer. And we've again got a similar data set, and that I'll explain more about that later. So this project's funded by the Historic Scotland Foundation, and I'm sort of the initiator of the project. But it's very much reliant on a colleague, Fabio Cremeri from Undertone Design in Switzerland, who's providing the colour science, if you like, trying to make the colours work against a very rich background mapping. And then Kerry Binding and Douglas Tudhope at the University of South Wales, who have provided a bit of support on semantics and making sense of our very large monument, the source, but more of that later. Right. This is where things aren't working. Right, so as the slide moved on?
It has not moved on.
Right.
Still on the first one.
Right, okay, got
there
it now.
That's it now.
Yeah. So Steve has really introduced what Historic Environment Scotland does. We want to make sure Scotland's heritage is cherished, understood and shared, enjoyed with pride by everyone. I'll not go through the mission statement and sort of the bullet points, but part of that is making sure that we've got an up-to-date record of where the archaeology and built heritage and indeed maritime heritage of Scotland is. Was published on a website called Canmore until Tuesday, when we just transitioned to a new website called trove.scotland. It's very text-based, so it's got a lot of descriptive information about archaeological sites and buildings, and it's supported by a rich archive of photographs, images, drawings, manuscripts. What it doesn't deal with well is the sort of the spatial component. We've defined the site extents of some of the records as work in progress, but there's a lot of rich information created through the survey programs in our teams that has built up organically over the years. So we want to try and make that information accessible, and to do so we need to standardize the data. So the idea was how do we combine data from multiple projects across multiple techniques to manage internally consistently and then share online. So CHRoMA, the Cultural Heritage Review of Map Accessibility. The challenges are we are early adopters of GIS in 1992, and about the same time we bought an A0 plotter to plot out our survey plans. The A0 plotter had 7 colors. They formed the key to our map legend. They kind of stuck ever since. So they tend to be primary colors, which are obviously not accessible to people with color blindness. And I'd say the other part of the project is to combine the data sets. So the map on the left shows some of the case studies that I may be referring to in the talk. I dropped down into England, actually on the Tweed Valley, in the Bedford and Stonehenge areas, because I want to be able to test interoperability with other data sets, and that proved harder than I thought. So say there's thematic case studies. What type of thing? Is it agricultural? Is it domestic? Is it defensive? That type of thing. And then looking at chronology, show me all the sites that are Roman, or display all the sites that are medieval, that kind of thing. Talk very briefly about the data structure, and then a few observations at the end. So colour vision deficiency, colour blindness, affects about 4.5% of the UK population, 1 in 12 men, 1 in 200 women, and there are various forms. And I've listed some of the more widespread forms of CVD, colour vision deficiency. No red, no green, no blue, and no colour. Doing the testing of the results, we managed to find lots of other lesser well-known variations, which it instantly highlights that we can't address. We're not going to fix the problem. All we can do is improve the accessibility for people. So it's about improving the data, not solving a problem. Colour vision affects the understanding of the map content. Even though mapping is considered exempt in web accessibility guidance, we should still try and attempt to improve accessibility. And there are various tools to allow you to emulate how things look, but it's very subjective. So the data side of things is, as I say, we've mapped elements of the archaeological landscape of Scotland since 1990 electronically. So we've mapped about 8,600 sites, and we've also got a complementary program of airborne mapping, another 4,000 records. The only data from these survey data sets that's published is the purple area highlighted on the right-hand side around East Lothian. So I want to make sure that we can, at least the survey data set, we can publish in good time. The legend in the middle is a variant of the original legend developed on the basis of the colour printers. It's expanded since over time. These things are organic. But we also want to look at geophysical survey. We recently developed a geophysical survey capacity within the organization. So that's given me the opportunity to explore extending the approach to another methodology. And also we need to think about invasive techniques like excavations. As I say, there's a wealth of information in reports and things, but it's all very much project focused, and nobody thinks about how do we aggregate data across different projects so that somebody can read the data consistently, somebody who's not an archaeologist. So we're talking about accessibility. I'm mainly thinking about FAIR data, by the way, but when I'm talking about accessibility, the primary focus is on web content accessibility, not the A in FAIR, which refers to identifiers and authorization protocols and machine accessibility. We're looking at the human accessibility side of the data. So to get the project going, I took screenshots of our existing web mapping. So these were available on Canmore till Tuesday. But they're temporary. They're not in the replicate new website. So the top left screenshot shows the area of archaeological mapping at Inveresk, just south of Musselburgh. It's a complex multi-period landscape from Neolithic ritual monuments through Roman temporary camps, Roman field system, medieval ironage and medieval settlement, and then industrial mapping. So there's lots of different things that we want to explain and interpret the map, which kind of obstructs it goes against sort of the guidance for colors and accessibility. It says you should really only have about 4 or 5 different distinct colors. We've got double that, 9 or 10, and they all interact with each other in this small area. So taking the screenshot, I've dropped it into an emulator called colorblindness.com Coblas, which allows you to then simulate how somebody with no red, no green, or no blue vision would see that data. And we've tested against Ordnance Survey map backgrounds and orthoimagery. So the trouble is there's a lot of rich color already in the backgrounds in the Ordnance Survey. Have certainly taken account of colour vision accessibility on their background mapping. Yeah, so backgrounds, as I say, we have to work in already rich, colourful landscapes. So that's the Ordnance Survey and orthoimagery. So the brief was to develop a colour palette to represent survey data against this background mapping and the orthoimagery. So 10 discrete colour vision deficiency friendly values. As I say, it's probably 4 or 5 too many to be really successful. But because of the complexity of the archaeology, we need to try. So worked with colleague Fabio Cremeri at Undertone Design Switzerland. He, after I think we went through about 4 iterations, came up with a colour palette, Herta, which is the main island on St Kilda, where we've defined 10 CVD friendly discrete colour values, all defined with a hex code, so that you can apply the hex code in modern GIS applications and the color load up. And we've tested that against the most common map background colors to try and show how successful they are. I would say it works very well when you're just comparing one color against the background mapping, but because of the sort of the complexity of the archaeology, some of the colors are overlapping some of the other colors in the archaeological content, and user testing find that to be still quite challenging in places with the density of the archaeology we were trying to display. As I say, we evaluated the legend with 124 respondents in the citizen space survey. 16.5% preferred the standard legend. There's 20% no preference, and 63.5% preferred the proposed legend. I think other sort of anecdotal comments from colleagues who've tested have also found that, yeah, the muted color, the muted colors of the new legend actually work very well for the data that they're trying to present. We're never going to find a single solution, but we can aim to improve presentation on our web maps and in our GIS. So the complexity of the legend, 10 values is far too many. We acknowledge that as a weakness in the project, and the colors work individually, but not in combination. And some of the color combinations are found to be too close. We've got a tan and a brown colors, which they're quite close, but actually the way that those colors have been applied to the archaeology, they actually work well as part of a sort of related data set. And the imagery was particularly difficult with the very dark green of the ortho imagery. So we found if you're able to adjust the background opacity to fade the background a bit, the foreground, the archaeological content will stand out a bit more. So that was the options. I mean, ideally, if you've got the data in your own GIS, you should be able to go in and adjust the color legends to suit yourself. And again, with the backgrounds, you can adjust the background mapping. That's just a detail of some of the complexity of the so the long lines running down the image are what's called pit alignments or pit boundaries. And then there's circular areas or settlement, and then there's other sort of series of parallel lines, green lines, which are cultivation. They all interact with each other, so it's quite a complex landscape. So that's where the complexities and where the legend probably struggles a bit. So I say we want to make our data fair, so we're working towards fair data. There's no way that this project can fully implement fair data. So we want to make our data findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. In terms of reuse, or we want to publish our data as open data under Ordnance Survey presumption to publish where relevant. But the key part of this project was looking at the interoperability of that data. To that end, our existing websites use a series of controlled vocabularies to manage our key reference terms. So this is a Scottish Monuments thesaurus. We also have an objects thesaurus and a period thesaurus called SCAPA, which are all they're published on a website currently hosted as heritagedata.org, which has got persistent URLs. It defines a concept and it defines the relationships. So in this example, the vocabulary is defining a byre dwelling, which is a building that part of the building is used for domestic occupation, and the other part of the building is usually cattle byre. So it has both a domestic and an agricultural function. In our current mapping, it was a struggle to know how to deal with that, because it changes theme, if you like, over time in contemporary, and it also changes that dwellings become storage units and things over time, and they're also hierarchical. So it's defined as a domestic building, monument, and agricultural building. It's really difficult to pin down. So we ended up remapping all 2,000 terms in the thesaurus to a set to the labels, the values that we want to display. It's just a screenshot of the former Canmore and the current on trove.scot, the new web page rendering of what a bar dwelling is. So as I say, we've got over 2,000 terms in the monument thesaurus, mapped to 18 top group terms. So we sat down and mapped those terms to 10 values that we wanted to display the data, and this is just a diagram illustrating the complexities of the mapping and the decisions we made basically behind that are to produce a map of the archaeology of Scotland, showing it as buildings, cultivations, industrial. There are other ways to present the data, but for this for this project, we want to present the data on those 10 themes. I'm working with my colleagues in University of South Wales. They mapped the collection, the labels that we've defined for the map legend. They've created a series of values in what's called a collection against the individual definition within the Scottish Monument Thesaurus, and so we can store we can map them to this high level overarching categories, and then associate the color values. The hex value can be then stored against that in heritage data. There's still a few issues. We still have to manage a few things by exception. Military sites tend to have types of buildings that can also appear in civil use, but for the purpose of this mapping, we're just looking at military use of those things, and that's just the schema of the representing the categories in RDF. I won't go into that because I don't fully understand it all, but it explains the relationships between the collection, the categories of information. And that'll then, when the project ends, we'll then add these values to the heritage data pages. And there's also RDF turtle serialization of the relationships and Sparkle queries. So applying the legend to the data. So this is the Inveresque area we were looking at earlier. The primary colors are on the left, and the revised legend, the CHRoMA legend, is applied on the right-hand side. So that I'm not sure how well that works over a Zoom meeting screen, but hopefully you can see some different some improvement. And again, looking at our field survey data, this is the complex multi-period landscape at Hurta, St Kilda, Village Bay, which shows you the detail that we mapped in the field, and then the befores at the top and the afters at the bottom. And again, looking at an industrial landscape in South Lanarkshire, where we found the industrial colours, the darker colours used to represent pits and bings, wasn't showing up terribly clearly with the ortho imagery, unless you adjusted the opacity. So the bottom screen shows how you can address that. We also looked at geophysical survey data. So this is my colleagues have been testing their equipment at a place called Hollywood South in Dumfries and Galloway. It's a Neolithic ritual monument. There's a small Neolithic prehistoric complex there. This is the data that we'd mapped from our airborne mapping program, and the grey polygon in the middle is the extent of our geophysical survey. So the idea is that we should be able to take the data from one method of observing the archaeology and combine it with another method of recording archaeology using the same legend. So this is a typical result of a geophysical survey grayscale plot. Just to the west of the road, there's the Neolithic Cursus monument. It's a long rectangular feature defined by sort of darker colours. It represents the ditches of the monument, and there's some other features in the area. And that's the interpretation of the results from the machine. It's able to identify positive and negative trends in the magnetic the magnetism, and that's a map showing the interpretation of those results as enhanced magnetism, possible archaeology or disturbance, that kind of thing. And there's a further map that's then distilling that down to this is the archaeology that we can identify from that. And again, that's all that we're using the same legend to display the results from the magnetometry survey as we used for the airborne mapping. So I'm still to convince my colleagues that this works. And then this is the combined data set. So I've filled in a lot more of in the geophysical survey area. We've been able to add in a lot more detail, and there's a lot of background noise in there that's not archaeology, but it's still worth recording its presence. Say both ideas to test data interoperability. I had hoped to use survey data from the commercial archaeological companies undertaking fieldwork up in Scotland. I actually find it very difficult to find any primary data. There's lots of information in the project reports as a sort of a raster image, but the data that's gathered in the field doesn't seem to make it into the archive. So that's an interesting point, a learning point. However, we were lucky in that Historic England published their aerial archaeological mapping November 23 under an open license. So I've been able to test the data again, our approach against their data set. We're lucky that both of us use a monument, a very similar monument thesaurus. So applying the legend thematically wasn't difficult. So that's the this Historic England mapping. So it's got a set of definitions. It's got a date or a period field. It's got an interpretation. So it's easy enough to work. And this is the areas highlighted in the rectangular boxes, not very colour vision friendly red, are areas that we've archaeological sites that we've mapped and transcribed from our own mapping program. I was able to drop that into their browser, but I'm also able to then take their data and combine the two data sets into ArcGIS. Because the archaeology is seamless, it doesn't respect administrative boundaries. You should be able to move from one jurisdiction to another and view the data consistently. That was really successful. It's not the best study area, but because it's a border area, it demonstrates the need for interoperability. And that's a bit more of the combined data sets. English Heritage used a physical form legend. We haven't captured that information in the way that English Heritage Historic England have captured the data. So I can't apply their legend to our data, but because of the key value, the monument type, we're able to apply the legend developed by CHRoMA to the English data set. And just to show it works a bit at scale, this is Stonehenge and Avebury World Heritage Site, which is a very complex landscape in Salisbury Plain, Wiltshire, which focuses on ritual monuments, defensive, but it's also got military sites, World War II sites, all sorts of things. And that just demonstrates it works at scale. I focused in where it worked really well. I think the next slide, shows where it doesn't work quite so well. It very much relies on a unique value. The survey data being coded up with a unique value. It's either got to be a bank or a settlement, but it's old data, so it's linked in and described as more than one category of monument. So that way you would have to go in and unpick the data to apply the legend. But it's a good start, and it's a good learning point for future work. We also tested against period. For some reason, our data we never captured period consistently within our own data sets. So I've had to go back into the record to encode the survey data with the relevant period. And then I've got two screenshots, just one showing the legend applied in East Lothian and another in Bedford. Period labels generally work quite well apart from Roman, as there's obviously Romans in Scotland were very much a military intervention, whereas there's periods of settlement in England. Future work, say we've mapped the airborne mapping back in 2004. We also mapped where people had excavated. So this is the A1 bypass at Inverness, just cuts through Roman temporary camp and this Neolithic ritual monument. So we digitized from the plans the excavated features, and they actually align very well with the transcription data we did, and that just demonstrates the need to, we want to bring lots of different types of data together. They're all different ways of finding the same types of information. So hopefully going forward in 2026, we want to explore revisiting the mapping of the archaeology of Inverness, because there's some quite exciting discoveries coming up there. As I say, I had hoped to use a lot of the commercial reports. This is one of the field surveys on Ulva. There's 3 blocks of survey. The archaeology has been mapped in detail. It's obviously been gathered by either GPS or electronic distance measurement, or mapped off LiDAR, whatever, I don't know. But all I see is the image in the project report. So one of the challenges ahead is, how do we extract that information, that knowledge, spatial knowledge, to add it and to fill out the record. So that's for field survey. And again, same thing for excavation, field work. This is Advocates Close in the centre of the World Heritage Site of Edinburgh. Somebody's undertaking excavation. They find various features. They're all, because of the nature of the built environment, they're all keyhole excavations, very small scale, but you want to be able to combine the information from different data to build up a picture of the archaeology across the old town. I haven't even talked about depth. Still trying to work in 2D. And then the structure of the information we want to require. We require. We need an identifier from the project, from the advisor, the methodology. What did you do? And it should be a unique term. The date of activity, and that could be a date range. Who was involved in the organization they were involved? Ideally, they should use a term from our monument thesaurus, but we can work around that. Period. Good to have a period value assigned. Doesn't always happen. Copyright and reuse statements are key, because we want to use the data, we want to reuse the data, we want to publish it openly, and then we want to be able to link to the relevant record in the national record, or to the relevant historic environment record. And each of these data sets should have a unique URL for the activity or event that was undertaken, and then obviously a code for the legend that's applied. And yes, final observations, I would say. Yeah, lots of people undertake lots of fieldwork in Scotland. We get about 1,000 projects a year reported. Not all of them create digital information, but there are multiple organisations using a range of methodologies and techniques to record and map archaeology on a project by project basis. There's a lack of consistent standards in the data, because they're producing a publication report. Data discoverability, I couldn't test the approach against commercial and research community projects, as very little primary survey data reaches the archive. And if it is there, it's very difficult to find. And that's not just our own HES archives. The Archaeology Data Service in York have a digital archive. Again, I couldn't find any data that was really usable for this project. And data interoperability, we can address it through applying standardized terminologies, or at least being able to map the terminologies using the local data set to the reference vocabularies. And we rationalized the large number of terms, so over 2,000 plus terms, into what's called collections for defining the map legend for presentation. But we still need to manually review and manage display by exception. And accessibility, the adoption of the Colour Vision Colour Vision friendly colour palette does work, but one of the failings to acknowledge is the complexity of the story that we want to tell. The map detail viewed against the background mapping is still challenging, but it is. We feel we've improved the output to the public, and yeah. So just to say, grateful to the Historic Scotland Foundation for funding the project. Contributes to our HES Equalities Action Plan, and very grateful to Fabio Cremeri for the colour science, and Kerry Binding Doug for the modelling and the semantics, which is beyond my understanding. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Peter. It was really interesting. Quite a lot going into it that you might, I guess, from the outside might not appreciate how much goes into the thought behind the colour scheme for the maps. We've got a few questions coming in. So I'll start with the first one from Tom, which we kind of spoke about before we went live earlier on, just around Tom saying it was kind of interesting and surprised to hear that there wasn't already a sort of standardized or accessible way to display map data. Do you see this project possibly becoming the basis for some form of standardization in the future?
I'd like to think so. But when I first started at the Royal Commission, we were, and we still are, responsible for the display of archaeology and Ordnance Survey maps, all those little Gothic maps with the Gothic script. So the Ordnance Survey had a simple, it's all black, but yeah, we've kind of in the sort of rush to digitization, the democratization of survey, and everybody has access to high-end survey kit relatively cheaply. The standards never kept up, so we're trying to play catch up. But I say we put the legend out there. It's something that people could adopt if they want. One size doesn't fit all. That legend will not suit everybody's purposes. As for showing the archaeological landscape at a national scale, you would need to develop a different legend to show maybe sort of different aspects of that archaeology at a more local scale. But it is a way of trying to say you should be thinking about standardizing the data. And at the end of the day, people, if they're using a GS, they can apply their own colours. But we'd like to hope it gets adopted, obviously.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We've got a couple of questions in from Helen McDonald. Helen, when she introduced herself, said that she is working at the Glasgow Women's Library, and they've got a project mapping memorials to women in Scotland. The project's several years out of date, and hoping that the next time they visit it, they can kind of improve the accessibility. So Helen was asking, is the monument thesaurus that you referred to, is that available online for people to use?
Yeah. Bear with me.
And just while you're finding that, I guess another question from Helen was, what scope is there to display both the category and the period?
No. Yes, that would be a case where you'd need to develop a. I think it's becomes far too complicated, because you've got 10 categories. I think I've probably I think there's probably 12 of the main periods, and that's trying to distill it down to a manageable number of period values. So you've got a multiplier there, which is difficult to address.
And then I guess on the category side of things, you'd mentioned, I think at the beginning, some of the categories were kind of land use, Riggin, Faro, and the Roman period as categories.
Yeah.
What sort of things kind of would you be mapping within those? Like, what are some examples of the actual sites you would be mapping?
So for the Roman, the existing approach in the Roman period is, I've lost my browser and all that. Yeah, that's quite bad. Yeah. So the Roman in what was life until Tuesday, we were showing Roman temporary camps. These are smaller, low crop mark earthworks, Roman forts. they would be shown as Roman on the map. But at Inveresk, there's also an extensive civil settlement, which is called Dame. There was a couple of years ago, there was a Mithraic temple found, with sort of big stone altars. They would probably go in as ritual and funerary, and then there's the field system which we were showing as land use. So we would then be in a period-based way. We would then say they're all Roman for a period, or we'd still be showing them as defensive or cultivation or land use, depending on that. So it's just making that consistent. It was one of the things that got me thinking about this was, how do I address this anachronism of highlighting Roman military? Again, that goes back to the Ordnance Survey. And the Ordnance Survey maps have got the sort of German Gothic script for tumuli and things like that, but Roman, they used a sans serif font to highlight the. It's to do with the military. They were fascinated by the military. Just going back to the poetry library, my colleague Susan Hamilton worked with them a few years ago about making the links in our database to it. So that might be a conversation worth pursuing again in the future.
Yeah. So then we've also got Ryan's asking, is curious to know your thoughts on using hatches or other symbols rather than just block colors to maximize accessibility. Yeah. Was it just a case of wanting to keep it simple and easily understandable to the end user?
Right. No. So this is again something that's one of the lessons learned. Our survey data is all lines. There's no polygon features. So when we started the project, we were looking at how do we present all this information lines. So hatching wasn't an option. It's certainly an option with the Historic England data, which is polygonized. That's certainly something, something for a future project to think about, because again, that can help improve visibility. I think the difficulty is some of the polygons are very large, but also you get some very small detailed polygons, and the hatching probably doesn't work so well. But yeah.
And then Alistair is saying, not a question as such, but apparently the Canmore thesaurus site was switched off 2 days ago. Is
that's correct. So we've launched. I'll put the link in chat. It's been a bit of a week. the redirects, I think they were surprised by the volume of redirects. Right.
And just while you're finding that, we've got a question from John Robinson is asking, is it possible to automatically change an interactive view if the user already knows what type of color blindness or deficiency they have? So I guess, is there the opportunity to have some sort of interactive system where people can tailor it to their own needs?
Not on anything I've seen. I mean, obviously, if I'm viewing the data in my own GIS, I can go in and I can change the colors to suit my own purposes. But on a web browser, I haven't seen that. I think we would have to define legends for each of the variants, the more frequently occurring versions of CVD. It'd be nice, but it's too complicated for me. Yeah.
Yes. Question came in anonymously there, so that's kind of 2 in 1 there. And then I guess you'd mentioned interoperability as being one of the key aspects. Is the work you've been doing, is it kind of replicable kind of across the country? Once you've established the colors to the legend, is that a case of just kind of click and go and it'll change, or do you have to go through manually?
You would have to. So the Historic England data, you would then have to I had to go in to manually apply the legend value in their data set, which is why I had the screenshot of it's coded as a settlement and a field system. I can't do that without actually having to then go in and untangle the data, which I didn't have time in the project. But Yeah, you'd think. Yeah, I mean, if I'm sure it's programmable. It's just build my skills.
Okay, cool. Unless there's anybody's got any last minute questions that come through, I think we've got through all the questions there. So we've got
Yeah.
through quite a lot. So thanks very much, Peter.
Yeah. So the two links I've put in the chat. I hope.
I can see
I've
two from
posted
you
them.
there, and one from Michael as well.
Yeah. So the one at 241. That's the linked data version of the Scottish Monument Thesaurus, and the second one I've posted is the new version on Trove. I believe searching is coming. At the moment, you can just have to browse the categories.
So
But
maybe what we'll do is if you send me those links, I can send them out to people
yeah, that's
along with the
fine.
recording once it's ready.
Yep.
And if anybody wants to get in touch to ask you any questions, maybe something comes up in the next few days, where's the best place they can contact you?
My Hess email address, which you've got.
Right, perfect. Okay, cool. So thanks very much again for joining us. In terms of what's coming up next in the community throughout July, the theme in the community is sustainability. We've got a few events in person and online coming up for that. I think the 3rd of July will be in Aberdeen, speaking about kind of data and AI's role in sustainability in the energy sector. And then we've got events coming up on the co-benefits of climate change and also sustainability in the hospitality sector and the role that data and AI can play in that. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure to check out the community. All the events are up now, so you should be able to see them with the dates and things, and you can sign up to anything you're interested in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up there. Thanks everybody for joining, and hopefully we'll see you at the next session. Thanks again, Peter.
You're welcome.
Cheers. Bye bye.